You just addressed cardiovascular risk.
Mm.
From my limited knowledge in this field, in your medical world, I had interviewed a cardiologist, and he had said that the risk of a woman becomes that of a man after she menopauses for cardiovascular issues, including stroke. Do you recommend a CT angio or anything of the sort after menopause or after a certain period that a woman has been through menopause? What is your take on it?
Not as a routine.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of markers that start off early. There is blood pressure. It's an easy accessible thing. Just I have a blood pressure machine lying on my desk.
Okay.
So I'll like measure it randomly in the day. It's such an easy tool, right? You don't need to go to a doctor. You can just buy a good quality thing from any online, wherever, or from your pharmacy. Just buy a blood pressure machine. We've seen blood pressure trending upwards at perimenopause. It's a silent killer. It is called a silent killer because it is silent. It does not give you headaches. It does not give you anything. It basically doesn't tell you anything, right? So typically a woman, every day when I speak to at least one woman, she'll tell me, no, doctor, my blood pressure, I've always had low blood pressure. It's like saying I used to be a gymnast when I was in school. So it's really important to realize that we are aging and that estrogen is a vasodilator. It's helping your blood vessels relax. Now estrogen's gone, so obviously it's not going to relax as much, which means your blood pressure is going to go up. So simple thing, check blood pressure. We all have access to checking our cholesterol levels.
Correct.
We've seen trending increase in LDL levels, which is the so-called bad cholesterol. So I think that's something that one can easily have access to. CT angio has a role, and we use it sparingly in women who want to make a hormone decision and they are pretty far away from their menopause.
Oh.
So then we tend to do it then, or someone already has a lot of high risk factors and we feel like hormones may not be a candidate, and then we say, okay, let's just do a CT angio and see where we stand. Now, what does CT angio really do? It basically tells you if you've got calcified plaques. So it gives you a calcium score, right? And before you form that calcium plaque, there are soft plaques, there is raised LDL, there is inflammation. The plaque comes at the end of it. Then comes a blockage, and then you get a heart attack, and there's a whole process. If you've already got something on so two things. Firstly, false negative, which means if I have a plaque that's not calcified, it's not going to show, right? And the second part is, if I've already formed plaques, like what am I waiting for? I will just keep waiting. Next CT angio, next CT angio, and then say, acha, abhi ho gaya. So the point is, when we are looking at preventive care, when we are talking about primary prevention, you've already got markers which are before that. Check inflammation, you've got inflammatory markers. We know today that plaques form when there is a perfect storm of high LDL. LDL is also pretty complicated. I'm just very simplistically. What do I need? I need inflammation, I need high LDL. And the two of them then form a perfect storm to create that plaque, and then that calcium will deposit on it. Preventive care is what can I do about it before my calcium score changes. And so, yeah, I've never had CT angio myself, because my point is, if I have it, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to go for an angio? My point is, what can I control? I can control my blood pressure, I can control my LDL today, and I can monitor them. I can control my inflammation. And these three are always, on my mind. Like, okay, am I checking them regularly?
And the calcium score, how important is that?
It basically tells you how much has been deposited. So again, the ranges are so huge, and its application in women, again, most of the studies, so many of them are done in men, that we don't know if those scores mean the same thing in women.
Wow, that's something, huh?
Yeah.
That there's not enough study on women. That's something.
But that's always something. Like, even if you look at the large statin studies, they're practically all on men. And we don't know if use of statins in primary prevention for women is as robust as that in men. It's like this, do you wait for a heart attack to test it?
But someone's got to do these studies, doc.
Well, things are changing. I'm very optimistic. I'm super optimistic about how things are changing, and there's more noise about it. Like, who was talking menopause even 5 years ago, right? And now suddenly it's a global movement. We're seeing every country there are these few who are like making noise and then others are following. So it's going to change. I just know it's not going to be the same for our daughters.
So, ages ago, when I was going through my own menopause, I felt like I had treaded through it like a breeze. One day they stopped. 1 year later, I got my tests. Everything was hunky dory, and that's when the action started. Was 1 year later, I started getting joint aches. Hot flashes I never really had, but yes, joint aches. I had bursitis. I never played tennis or golf, and I had the tennis and the golf elbow. Then I realized that I was experiencing all those things that I was supposed to through that year, which goes to show that things can show up much later. So tell our audience something about that.
So joint pain and muscle soreness, like the whole musculoskeletal symptoms are actually more prominent in Asian women.
I see.
Yeah, especially South Asian women. So if we look at our population, like now I remember my mom so often complaining that she's got low backache and she's got hip pain and she'd always have a heating pad at night. I just keep wondering, like, why does she keep using a heating pad? Right? But that achiness was always there. I don't feel right. It's just aching. You know, the whole thing is that estrogen, there's receptors in the muscle, there's receptors in the bone, there's receptors everywhere. And estrogen is such a potent anti-inflammatory. Now you take it away, it's just obvious that there's going to be inflammation. And like, you know, that
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. My
hurting.
knuckles,
Yeah.
my elbow,
everything.
my hip. Yeah. When I was working out.
You feel, not overnight, but over months you feel it happens. But now imagine someone who's had an oophorectomy. The ovaries have been removed at surgery.
Okay.
For
Okay.
them, it is boom. Like for them, it happens overnight. And that is, you know, it's traumatic. It is traumatic. But for someone who's going through natural menopause, it still spaces itself out over months or years. Classic hip pain, I hear women say during a consult is, you know, doctor, I wake up in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping and this one side is hurting. And I don't know, it's not really pain, but they're unable to describe it. But it's such a classical symptom. And I've had it myself. Like I used to hate airplane rides because 2 hours of a flight and I would be like, oh my God, my hip is like stuck. It's just hurting. I keep wondering, it took me so long to figure out my own symptoms and sort of say, hey, it's menopause. What? And
Imagine a layperson.
I know. It's so I think like now there is so much noise and there needs to be more and we need more of these.